So a lot of people are still struggling with the idea that Jesus was not a prophet or just a teacher, that he was the Messiah, that he came here to fulfill all of the prophecies. And a lot of people say that he fulfilled at least 61 prophecies. Now, the odds on one man fulfilling just eight, not 61, 8 prophecies would be like covering the state of Texas with 50-cent pieces, 2 feet deep. And the odds of being able to fulfill one of those prophecies would be like reaching into the state of Texas, 2 feet deep of 50-cent pieces, and being able to pull out the one with an X on it. That's 8 prophecies, not 61. So if you're into statistics, come on. Come on, where you at? The Quran mentions Jesus, and they believe that he was a teacher, and they also believe that he was a human that went to heaven. But they don't believe anything. How does one that was living go to heaven without being who he said he was? I'm curious, like, how do you rectify that? And the more I see about the Quran, the more I see Muslims that have crossed over to Christianity, and they come straight out and say, in the Quran, which was written, 600 years after Jesus died, resurrected, and went to heaven, they're saying that it says in there that he is the great deceiver. He says, Allah says, I am the great deceiver. Like, and that's your God? Their prophet, Muhammad, was illiterate. He lived in a cave on a mountain, and he would come down and tell to scribes, I guess, what God was telling him, what his God was telling him. And their big thing is well, he was able to change a whole kingdom over to Muslim religion. Why does that impress you? Just one. Daniel, in his time, converted 3 kings, almost 4 kings. You had Nebuchadnezzar. I don't remember all their names. I'm not even going to go into the names. But you can look it up. One of the kings that didn't convert to Christianity wanted to in the last moment whenever he realized that he was going to get overtaken. And he even asked Daniel, because he had him read the message on the wall. And it basically told him, your kingdom's over. You've been tried. You've been found wanting. He said, is there anything I can do? Not at this point. I believe that if he had an opportunity to change over to Christianity before that time, realizing what was going to happen, pretty sure he would have done that. Instead, he died. Well, was killed, which is also what the message told him. I can't wrap my head around, if you read the Bible, it tells you who he was. And it tells you who he was before he was who he was. Look at Abraham and Isaac. Think about this. Abraham and Isaac. Abraham was told to take his son Isaac up to the mountain. Now before this, he had another son, right? Ishmael. But that was with Hagar. God promised him a son. And his wife, Sarah, was like, I'm too old to give you a baby. Take my maidservant, Hagar, and have a baby with her. So they do that. They have Ishmael. A little while later, God tells Abraham again, I'm going to give you a son. Abraham says, wait, I have a son. I have Ishmael. God says, I'm going to give you a son with Sarah. They're even older than they were before that. You took the timeline into your own hands, thinking that you knew better than God. So now he tells you, send Hagar and Ishmael off and I'll give them their own kingdom. Okay. What kingdom ends up being Ishmael's? The Arab, and ends up being Muslim 600 years. Well, actually further than that, because we're going back to Abraham. So many moons later, it converts over to Muslim. Abraham is told to take Isaac, his only son, his only son, up onto the mountain where Jesus was crucified years and years later. Take Isaac up onto that mountain and sacrifice him. Carry the wood. Who carried the wood? Isaac carried the wood. Who carried the wood for the crucifixion? Jesus carried the wood. Wait a minute. God says, go up there and sacrifice your son. He tied Isaac up, had him ready to, he was coming down with the knife, getting ready to sacrifice his son because he was told to by God. And the angel stops him and says, no, stop. God doesn't want you to do it. He was putting him to the test. Will you do as I say and sacrifice your one and only son? Abraham was willing to do that. And later on, God actually did that. His one and only son sacrificed for you, me, and the world. Even the ones that have gone to the dark side, that are messing with witchcraft and demons and all that stuff, they still have an opportunity to turn it over. You say, well, they sold their soul. You can't sell something that doesn't belong to you. If we're talking about the soul would be the breath of God, right? Because we're made of dust and the breath of God. It says when we die, that breath returns to God. So in Christianity, we say, well, there's not, you only have the one life. But that breath returns to God, and then it comes back into another body. That's almost like reincarnation to a certain extent, right? I mean, it goes back to God, but then God breathes it into the next child. I think there might be something there. I'm not sure. All you other Bible scholars can shred that or do what you will with it, but there's got to be something to these children that are born that have memories of past lives. And it's no, they're not Hindu, no, they're not Buddhist. There are no other gods like that. There's one. And we all come from there, whether you want to believe it or not. And you want to live, and so did I for a long time, wanted to live in this world and live my best life. That's not what this place is about. Do you not get that? That's not what this is about. It's almost like Abraham taking his only son up onto the mountain to sacrifice him. Are you willing to sacrifice what you consider happiness, which is very temporary? You say, well, I'll live 120 years. Even if you did, it's going to go by really fast. Trust me. When you're a kid, it doesn't, because you can't wait to get to that point where you can make your own decisions. But once you get to that point where you can make your own decisions, it speeds up, y'all. I'm telling you. And then I come to this realization that it's not about living my best life here. It's about earning my way into everlasting life, to eternity. That makes more sense. That adds up to me. If it doesn't add up to you, I'd encourage you to really think about it. The rich man on the road asked Jesus, what can I do to ensure eternity for myself? And he says, follow the commandments. And he says, well, I've been doing that since birth. He says, well, then other than that, sell all your stuff and follow me. Give all your stuff away and follow me. Give it to the needy and follow me. And the rich man goes away sad. He's heartbroken, because he had accumulated so much stuff in this world. But it's just stuff, and it's not going to last. And you're not taking it anywhere with you. So why are you so afraid to get rid of it? So Peter asked Jesus, how can, we've left our families, we've left everything for you. How can a man ensure that he's going to go to heaven? And Jesus told him, with man, it's impossible. But with me, anything's possible. With God, all things are possible. He's telling you right there, while I'm here, it's impossible. But once I'm crucified, once I sacrifice myself, once I'm sacrificed, eternity is there for all of you, if you just believe in me. Now you say, well, I believe in Jesus, good enough, right? That's not good enough. If you really believe and you really pray, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. I'm telling you, it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. You're going to be blown away at the feeling inside. I was a Christian as a little kid. I was baptized and stuff, and I really believed in him then. And then something terrible happened, and I think that changed my thought process about it. I don't remember exactly where things started to go wrong, but the traumatic event in my life definitely had something to do with it, because then I was all about sex, and I was like 8 years old, whenever this happened, somewhere around there. Later, it wasn't long before that's all I could think about was sex. And to me, love only had to do with sex. So for me to say I love a man, I wouldn't do that. Now I realize that's not what love is. Love isn't about sex. Love is about love. Love is about caring about your fellow neighbors, your brother, your sisters. And by loving them, I hope that they'll find salvation through Jesus Christ. I hope that you, if you don't believe, you'll look into it and you'll start to talk to him. Do you have to get on your knees and pray? Nothing says that. At times I will get on my knees and pray, but most of the time whenever I pray, I'm just kind of talking to him. And I get responses. Not all the time. Like, I'm really confused about where I'm at right now and what's going on. Dealing with a lot of financial issues and stuff, and job issues, and it's a struggle. And that makes me not want to come on here and do videos. As you see, I mean, my last one was probably a month ago, 2 months ago, I don't even know. It's been a while. And he chirps at me you need to do this. And I want to, but I'm like, but God, if I expose myself like that, who would want to come to you? Because they're going to look at me and say, yeah, you believe and nothing's changed. Well, that's not true. Things have changed, but not dramatically. And so that's the expectation, right? Well, I believe in God now and I prayed to Jesus. Nothing's turning around. It's like quitting drinking or drugs or, whatever. You're using it for a coping skill, right? So you learn new coping skills, right? To put in place of that. It's like a mechanic getting new tools. When you're a mechanic and you get new tools, do you throw the old tools away? No, you keep them. You just leave them on the bottom, or you put them in a different box. You separate them. And these new tools are real cool, and if I use them correctly, they can make my life so much easier. But the first time I bust my knuckles, what am I going to do? I might quickly go back to the other tools, the old trusty tools, the ones that I knew worked. But they only work temporarily. They don't work permanently. And not to mention all the other side effects like hangovers. I'm done with hangovers, y'all. I'm done with drinking like that, y'all. I'm done with drugging and shit. It's temporary. Just like this place, it's all temporary. It's a temporary relief. For me to be rich on this earth, it's temporary. Can I pass it down to my family? Sure, do it. But what does that do for me? You say, well, I got to do all these good works to go to heaven. Nope. As a matter of fact, if you do good works and then you're in front of Jesus and say, well, I did this and I did that and I did this. And he say, go away from me. I never knew you. Why? Because you will not get there by works alone. It's about believing and trusting and putting all your faith in him. And I'm at that point right now. I've been at that point for a while now to where I give up. I don't want to work for a company or corporation anymore. I want to work for the Almighty. How do I sign up for that? Where do I send my resume? He has my resume. And I have faith that he's going to work it out for me. That's a hard thing to keep. That's a hard thing to keep. Because day after day, there's no money dropping in my lap. That's not how it's going to work. I prayed one time to have the faith of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And if you don't know, these guys allowed themselves to get thrown into the furnace rather than bow down to a statue that Nebuchadnezzar had built of himself. He made a law to say that everybody in his kingdom, when the bells rang or whatever, everybody was supposed to bow down to these things, to this statue and worship it. And I heard a guy say, yeah, you can almost imagine the devil, Lucifer, standing right there next to these three and telling them, hey, you don't really have to worship that statue. You can just pretend like you're tying your sandals. And that'll work. And he won't kill you. But they were like, no, we will not. Our Lord tells us not to bow down to any other idols or any other gods. We're not going to do it. He says, well, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to throw you in the furnace. Throw us in the furnace then. It's not like they thought he was kidding. So they did it. So he did it. He had them heat up the furnace 7 times hotter or something to that effect. And said, throw him in there. He threw him in there and watched in amazement as 3 people all of a sudden looked like there were 4 people. And he asked, how many people did we throw in there? 3. Why do I see 4 and one of them looks like the Son of God? The Son of God, this is back in the time of Daniel. What did he know about the Son of God? How did he know who that was? But when they came out of the furnace, yes, they came out. They didn't burn up. When they came out of the furnace, he says, you don't even smell like fire. Your clothes aren't even burnt. What happened in there? They said, our God protected us. That was enough to get Nebuchadnezzar to start to think. Wasn't enough to win him over. He eventually gets a dream, and he asks Daniel, what's this dream? And he says, if you don't change your life and come to God, you're going to be turned into a beast. And you're going to roam and eat grass until you come to the realization of who the real God is. He had that opportunity, and he's like, no, that's not happening. Read it. He did. He wandered like a beast, eating grass, until he came to realize who the real God was. Now you say, well, I've gone my whole life and I haven't been turned into a beast. Well, maybe you're not in that spot, in that position. This was a king that was leading a lot of people. What better way to get people to come to God than to have their leader come to God? If your king is worshiping this God, because he's telling you who to worship and when to worship him. If your king's worshiping, you're going to worship. God wants us all to come to him. He doesn't want you to turn to the God of this world, Satan, Lucifer. But you have that option. Thank you, Adam and Eve. You have that option. I wish they would have never done that. I would rather give up free will than struggle with trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing and which way I'm supposed to go. But if you turn to him, he'll tell you which way to go. He'll tell you what you're supposed to be doing. And it's not out loud. You'll just know deep down inside, this is for me or this is not for me. I changed not on purpose. I changed my music, my movies. I don't watch or listen to any of the crap I used to listen to. I don't talk like I used to. I try to read my Bible a couple times a day. And I pray at least 3 or 4 times a day. Has my life changed dramatically? No. Like to the point where I'm a success? He didn't promise me that. I don't know if that's part of the promise. I'm pretty sure it's coming. My blessings are coming, whatever they may be. Do I want great success and great wealth? No. No. As a matter of fact, I'll take it because I'm just going to give it away. That's where I'm at with things. I need enough to get by. And everything after that is going to go to homeless or less fortunate. Because I was a less fortunate person whenever, as a kid, we were a less fortunate family. And that's no fun. And you go to school with all these kids that they have all this money and their parents don't worry about paying for nothing. And you get so caught up in trying to buy the new Air Force Ones or the Porsche that their mom drives. And I even found myself feeling guilty driving my kids to school in the car that we had. And it wasn't a bad car. It was a decent car, but it wasn't a Mercedes and it wasn't a Porsche. And why do I care about that? Why do you care about that? It's unimportant. You're not taking it with you. You're going to have it for how long? How long are you going to have it? Not very long. Those luxuries are here to tempt you. And if you decide to go with that, okay, that's your choice. But I pray that you'll go the other way. I pray to see you up there. I pray that everybody goes there. Even the people that I really want to despise because I don't like what they're about and I don't like what they're really up to. Whether they're doing good things, you say, oh, he does good things. Good things according to who? According to what? According to you? According to, politicians? Come on, man. Come on, man. It's crazy to think that we're so obsessed with living the good life here for maybe 120 years. Most of us aren't going to get that far. Most of us are lucky we've gotten as far as we have this so far. Most of us will be lucky to see 70, 80 years old. That's fact. And if things are going the way they appear to be going, now I'm not speaking on nothing, I'm just saying wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes, famine, volcanoes, flooding, red rivers. There's a lot happening that is talked about in the Bible. You say, oh, all that stuff has been happening. Really? On this scale? On the scale of now? No, never. Not to mention some of the things that said in Revelation are like, and the whole world will see it, like the two witnesses that are going to be at the Wailing Wall. And when the Antichrist shows up and kills them, the whole world will see that. Before this day and age, before we got to within the last 20 years, how would the whole world have seen it? They wouldn't have. But now, with technology, with this thing and all our technology, now we're at a point where the whole world will see anything that's happening around the world. I'm now seeing things that I had never seen before. Stories in Africa and South America and the Middle East and all this stuff that we wouldn't have known about. We would have known very little of what's going on over there. But now with the cameras everywhere, nobody can hide anything. It's all out there for you to see, if you want to see it. But if you want to cover your eyes and, try to scratch that itch, fill that hole with something besides God, you can. I would warn you not to. But you can. I watched this movie where this guy is talking to his mother who has dementia and she doesn't even recognize him. And he's very wealthy and he's doing really good. And he says, what did it gain you, this God of yours? What did it gain you? Look at you now. You don't even recognize your own son. You don't even know where you are most of the time. What did it gain you to follow this God? And look at me. I'm rich. I have cars. I have clothes. I have a big house. And she clearly says, yeah, and the devil will make you comfortable here. Why would he want to do that? Well, that lake of fire that we call hell, it wasn't made for me. It wasn't made for you. God never intended to put a human in there, a person, one of his creations in there, with the exception of the fallen angels and Lucifer. That's who that was created for. At the end of times, you think Satan's going to be standing over everybody with a whip and ha 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 ha. He's got nothing to laugh about. He's going in there. So he can laugh all he wants right now. He's tempted me enough. And his day is done in my life. He's tempted me enough. He'll tempt you. He'll give you everything you want here. Why? Because he doesn't want to go into that lake of fire by himself. He hates Jesus Christ. He hates God. Despises them. And wants to do everything he can to break his heart. You know what breaks God's heart? Him taking you. You allowing him to take you. Now, until that mark of the beast comes, you always have a chance to turn. You always have a chance to turn back. But it does say in the Bible that at some point, that gift is no longer going to be available to those who have not received it. At some point, he's going to tell all of his prophets and all of his congregation, no more. Don't try to win any more souls over. The door is closed for those who have not received it. If that doesn't scare you, I don't know what will. I just got goosebumps on my back, and I know I'm good. Or, no, I don't know I'm good. I hope I am. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. I feel like my name is in the book of life. And I hope that yours is too. And if it's not, hopefully that's something you work on. Because I love you. And I want you to see this eternity, this incredible world that we're going to be given. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be amazing. But if you sleep on it, it's going to be hot. And you're going to get really thirsty. I don't relish that idea at all. You know, I believed in the Anunnaki so much, and the Sumerians and stuff, because there was crazy technology that came out of there. Crazy technology that came out of there, right? And I was like, that's real. That's a real thing, and I think those are our gods. Whoa! Spit that out. I just saw something recently that was like, whoa, it like hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, yep, that's the real truth. Cain killed his brother Abel. And then he was cast out by God. And he went and started a new city. I'm told that that's Samaria. The Anunnaki are the fallen angels. All this high-tech stuff, even back then, came from the fallen angels. They were running rampant over this world. You talk about giants. Oh, do you believe in giants? Yeah. Because that's what they were up to. That's what they were creating. They were creating their own creations. They were putting human women with fallen angel godlike people, fallen angels. And they worship them like gods. They loved that. I'm sure they relished that. They had this whole civilization, and they were all duped. And then they went across the world doing it. And everybody's like, oh man, there's Egyptian stuff. In the Grand Canyon, in the United States, there's Egyptian stuff. Let's be careful calling it Egyptian stuff. Maybe it's just fallen angel stuff. They were everywhere, y'all. Why are there pyramids all over the world? They were everywhere, y'all. They were getting into these civilizations and flying around and making themselves look like God. That's nuts. It's like that missing piece of the puzzle. Unreal. You're like, oh yeah, but look at AI. Where do you think that came from? We didn't just discover it. We didn't just create it. I guess we did kind of discover it, but we didn't discover it. It was given to somebody that probably prays to somebody else. You keep listening to music that you want to and stuff, but just by listening to it, there's all kinds of dark magic going on. And you don't believe me, that's okay. One day you're going to realize. And hopefully it won't be a day that's too late. I used to love the Rolling Stones. You know that song, Please Excuse Me While I Introduce Myself? I don't know the name of the song now. I don't care. Read the lyrics to that song. Led Zeppelin, all those guys I used to love. Stairway to Heaven. It doesn't even really make sense when you read the lyrics. When you read the lyrics, it's like, what is it saying? I don't understand. Can I buy a Stairway to Heaven anyway? No. But I guess when they play it backwards, it says a totally different message. They're everywhere, y'all. If you don't believe the Illuminati exists, guess who's running that? They told me, well, we all believe in God, and as a matter of fact, I'm a Christian. Really? Are you? You're a follower of Jesus Christ? He can say his name all he wants. But you're luring people away from him. Do you really think that you've got eternal life? Really? Good luck with that. I almost bought into that. They offered me all kinds of money and stuff to join their... I almost bought into that. You said, oh, be careful saying that. They're not going to do nothing to me. I got him. Did you ever think about that? When we say, we're number one, we're number one. We aren't, but look, where are you pointing? All them big foam fingers and stuff, they all point right there. This stuff boggles my mind. It blows me away at how much I never knew that I understand now. If you haven't watched The Chosen, that's a good place to start. It's on Peacock and Amazon. That's not a bad place to start. That's what drew me in. I was looking for something to watch, and I started watching that, and man, it hit me. It hit me so hard. I was blown away. But at some point in there, Mary Magdalene is part of the followers of Jesus Christ. Some point something happens and she has doubts or whatever the case may be, and she wanders away. She goes back to her old life of gambling and drinking alcohol. And Peter and Matthew are sent after her, which is a great combination because Peter, up to this point, hated Matthew. Matthew used to be a tax collector, and he collected taxes from the Jews, from his own people. Peter hated him for that. And that's why Jesus sent them together. They try to convince Mary to come back. She's so upset with herself, and they eventually convince her to come back, but she doesn't want to face Jesus at all. Jesus' mother, Mary, is in the camp when they bring her back, and she tells Mary Magdalene tells Mary, the mother of Jesus, I just can't face him. And she, talks to her and tells her he's not going to be like you think he is. And when she finally sees Jesus and he looks at her, and she's so distraught and so upset and so disappointed in herself, and she's crying, and he says, did you think you were never going to sin again? That's incredible. Like, whoa, man, are you serious? Wow, that's amazing. Because he's not saying, follow me and you'll never sin again. Follow me, and if you ever sin again, you'll never get eternity. You'll go straight to hellfire. Never said that. He said, did you think you were never going to sin again? You're not cast out over a sin. Now, I believe that if you keep doing that sin and then repenting, but you go right back to it as soon as you get done repenting, that might be. But he says the only thing that's unforgivable is cursing the Holy Ghost. He says that's the unforgivable sin. I don't know how that works. I just know that it says that, and that's scary. Because I don't know if I have. But I would say from my interactions that I have not been cast out. When they're wandering, a woman approaches Jesus, and she's a Gentile, meaning that she's not a Jew. She says, my daughter is afflicted with demons, and please help her. And he says to the woman, I cannot take food from my children and cast it to the dogs. His children were the Jews and the dogs were us. She doesn't even skip a beat and says, but Lord, don't the dogs get the crumbs that the kids drop on the floor? And he smiles and says, go back home, your daughter's healed. What? Wow, she was not hurt or offended that he called us dogs. I have to admit, I have a little bit of a... That's something I'll deal with whenever I get there. I just have the question of, why were we dogs? But at the same time, I have to be blessed that he decided that we weren't, that we were his people, and that he wanted us all. I'd be careful who you follow. Be careful the churches you go to. Be careful of the pastors you listen to. They may not all be appointed by God. You know what I mean? They may mistakenly mislead you. In that book series and the movies Left Behind, one guy was the pastor and he was left behind. And they're like, how are you? And he's honest. I never believed it. What was coming out of his mouth apparently affected his church. They believed it. Not all of them, but most of them believed in Jesus Christ. He never believed it. He's preaching it, but not believing it. And there's others that are preaching what they think is the right thing because it fits for them. It makes them happy. It pleases them. And here we go about trying to please that flesh again. For what? So I can live my way here. So I can be a pastor and have a multi-million-dollar house and, really nice cars. And why shouldn't I be able to have that stuff? Ask yourself again, why shouldn't you? I would say you should be able to have that stuff if everybody else in this world was good. But is everybody else good? There's people struggling all over the place, y'all. And if you're a millionaire and you're not giving, and you don't do it to get to heaven, you do it out of love. You say, oh, I'm doing this because I want to get to heaven. Well, you can go ahead and count that out. That ain't going to work. You do it for God. And you do it out of love for your fellow brothers and sisters. It's all out of love. If you do it for any other reason, there's no point. You're wasting your time. And your mind's all, you got things messed up. Read the Word. It tells you. Plain and simple, it tells you. You will not get here by good works. You will not get here by bragging to people, I give all my money away to charity. So, what does that mean? Are you suffering? Have you sacrificed? I feel like I've had a lot of unfortunate years in my life, and whenever I compare my trials and tribulations that I have gone through and currently going through, what are they compared to what happened to Jesus? He was betrayed. He was denied 3 times by the guy that he called the Rock, Peter. He knew that was going to happen. He told Peter it was going to happen. Peter said, no way, I'll die next to you before I deny you. It was hours later that he proved that to be untrue. Hours before he sacrificed, they go to the Garden of... I'm not going to say the name because I'll probably get it wrong. But anyway, they go there. And Peter and John and a couple of the others, Jesus takes them away from the group. And then he says, sit here and wait. And watch. And watch. As he goes and prays. And he's basically asking God if there's any way out of this. If there's any way for me not to go through this. Please let me. And he goes back to Peter and John after he told them to watch. And they're sleeping. And he says, what, you couldn't even stay awake for an hour? He goes away 2 more times to pray and comes back, and every time they're still sleeping. They're still, after he reprimands them and says, what, you couldn't stay awake with me for an hour? He walks away and they still go right back to sleep. That would be so frustrating as to be Jesus in that position. That would be very frustrating. Like, I've showed you miracles. I've done all these things. And still, you couldn't stay awake for an hour. But he realizes that that's how faulty we are as humans in this flesh. We can't be counted on for very much, And that was God in the flesh that couldn't count on us. You're going to count on anybody else in the flesh? You're going to be disappointed. Now, if you have a great marriage to where you both love God and love Jesus, and you pray and you do the things that he asks you to do, that's probably somebody you can count on. Not 100%. Because if you ask them to watch while you go do something, if they're tired, they're probably going to go to sleep. They might look away. They might not watch. Who knows? The reality is you can't count on anybody but him. It's the reality of things, y'all. I hope this helps some people to understand the things that I've come to understand. I hope that there's something in this message that reaches out and makes you want to, even if you just want to investigate a little bit. But prepare yourself. Because if you go to investigating, you might not get answers that you expect. You might be wanting to disprove all of this that I'm talking about. Like the guy that recently converted to Christianity after he tried to prove that the Shroud of Turin was phony, that it wasn't from the time of Jesus and it couldn't be. They've done all the testing and they found out it's authentic. It's from the time of Jesus Christ. They've tried to reproduce the image, and if you don't know what the Shroud of Turin is, you want to know what Jesus looked like, take a look. Go ahead and look it up. It will blow your mind. They've tried to reproduce anything like this on a piece of cloth, and they can't do it. Even with the technology today, they cannot do it. They cannot reproduce it. They say it would take a amazing bright light to imprint a person's image on cloth like that. And then I was talking to a guy who's not the same color as me about Jesus. And he says, oh, you believe in Jesus? You believe in Jesus? I said, yeah, of course. I absolutely do. He says, well, then what color was Jesus? Tell me that. I had to stop for a minute and take a breath and just kind of breathe. And I heard inside my head, because I was kind of like, what color are you? I heard inside my head, why do you ask me such a question? And I told the guy, you know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing, why are you asking such a question? He's like, what do you mean by that? And I'm like, if Jesus was who we say he was, which I know he was, do you think he gives a damn about the color of your skin? Do you think he cares what color your skin is? He doesn't. None of that matters. None of that has anything to do with anything. Why are we getting caught up on that? Well, Jesus had to be, he was Middle Eastern. He was Jewish. So he probably had tan skin. Sure. Did he have an afro? I don't think so, but I don't know. By the Shroud of Turin? No. I would say not. If you really want to know what he looked like, look up the Shroud of Turin. I hope I'm saying that right. I know it's the Shroud of, I think it's Turin. Look it up. But don't come to me because I'm a white guy saying I believe in Jesus, saying you believe that Jesus was white. What does that got to do with anything? I don't care what color he was. I don't care if he was blue like a Smurf. If he came here and did everything that this guy did, I don't care what color he is. I love him. And you should too. And if you choose not to, that's a choice that you make. Well, I'm not going to love him because he's a white guy. Wow. Okay. Well, we're definitely not in the same place. Or I'm not going to believe in him because he's a black guy. Wow. Come on, y'all. It's got nothing to do with any of that. That's all human BS. That's all earthly BS. You're caught up on the wrong thing. What I'm trying to say is no matter what color you are, let's have everlasting life together. That's all. Who knows what we're going to look like when we get there? We might be all the same color. We might be different colors. I love seeing different countries come into Christianity. It brings tears to my eyes. Especially Asian countries and Africa and stuff like that where they haven't been exposed to this stuff and they've been exposed to Hinduism and Buddhism, and which is all stuff that I looked at and said, man, that's pretty cool stuff, But to see them praising the name of Jesus Christ, it's like, oh, do you see? They don't care what color he was. They don't care what his nationality was. They don't care. Are all Jewish people great? No. Does that make Jesus Christ less great? No. Don't get hung up on earthly BS, because that's all it is earthly BS. You're getting caught up on the wrong stuff. It's got nothing to do with anything. The Nephilim, the fallen angels, that's why you want to ask those questions. They don't want you to believe. They don't want you to go and have everlasting life. Why? Because they can't have it. There's no going back for them. When this ends, and it will end, they lose. And they know that. So who wants to lose alone? I want to bring people with me. You go ahead and bring people with you over there, and I'm going to try to bring as many as I can with me to God, to the real God, the creator of all, including maybe your God, the devil, or that computer, that supercomputer in Memphis that Elon says will be our next God. Not mine. You make a decision for yourself, but not mine. No, thank you. I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. I know the real God. I know that He sent His Son here to be sacrificed for us because we are incapable of being sinless. We are incapable of living sinless lives. With that gift, your freedom to choose and your freedom to see life as you see it, it's a curse. It's a curse. But even with Abraham, God knew that we could not remain sinless. When He did the covenant with Abraham, He had him lay out the sacrifices in a row so that he might walk through it. Abraham might walk through it. But once he gets it all set up, and he's supposed to be walking through this to start the covenant with God, what's God do? He puts him into sleep. He puts him to sleep like He did Adam. And then God Himself walked it. He walked through in the place of Abraham because He knew that we cannot survive this earth sinless. That blows my mind, y'all. He was trying to do it all the way back then. Thank God we're not still sacrificing animals and everything. Thank Jesus that we're not doing that. Because that's what took the place of it. Jesus Christ's blood. And if you don't believe in all that, look up when He was crucified. Look up the natural disasters that happened. There were earthquakes and storms everywhere. Then I heard something about the field of blood where Judas hung himself. And the church bought that area for tombs for the rich. And then when Jesus makes this statement of, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, He's walking with that field to His right side. I've never heard anybody say this, but is He not talking about the field of blood? Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. He's talking about the field of blood, which He didn't even know it was going to be called. Well, of course He did, but it wasn't called that then. It wasn't even that then. Look up the prophecies. Look up how many He fulfilled. Some say it was hundreds. I know for sure it was at least 61. And like I said, not one man on this earth has a chance to fulfill 8, let alone 61. And a man on this earth did that. But He was God in flesh. Man. I'm telling y'all. Again, I hope this helps somebody out there. I hope you are able to wrap your mind around this. Get your hands on a Bible. I have a King James Version. I don't know if that's the one I was led to. So that's the one I'm reading. Be careful of what you read, because it says that if anybody changes the words in the Bible, they should surely die. And I don't know what my next video is going to be on, but I know where it's coming from. And again, I'm only trying to look out for your salvation. I'm trying to get you to live past this world and realize that you don't just have one life for up to 120 years. You have eternal life. You have a gift waiting for you. And all you have to do is accept it and turn to Him, our Savior, Jesus Christ. If you choose not to do that, that will hurt God and hurt Jesus, and I'll feel sorry for you. But I can only do what I can do, and that's what Jesus asked. He told him whenever He sent him out. He said, if you get to a town to where they're not listening, where they don't care, where they cast you out, that's okay. Don't let the dust rest on your feet. Just keep moving. So it's not my job to convince you completely. It's my job to put the evidence out there for you to look at. And hopefully that'll be enough for you. If that's not enough for you, if He's not enough for you, I'm sad for you. I am. My own dad will probably be one of those people. No matter how much I talk to him about this stuff, he just will not buy in. What kind of God is that? Huh? All these kids dying of cancer and blah, blah, blah. You're looking at it all wrong. Is it terrible that kids die of cancer? Is it terrible that children die at all? Absolutely. It's kind of hard to hear sometimes, but I've seen evidence in my life, a lot of evidence in my life. I spent 12 years working in a hospital too. I've seen a lot of evidence in my life that, especially a child, but when somebody is taking in an untimely fashion, that's usually God trying to touch at least one person in that situation. And I would be willing to bet that it's more than one person. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. Mothers, fathers, uncles, cousins, grandfather, grandmother, EMTs, doctors. It's his attempt to reach you. And it's your decision whether you decide to accept the gift. I only hope you will. On that note, I've been going for over an hour now, running my mouth, so I will say peace be with you. Shalom, shalom. And if you're going to investigate, do your due diligence. Don't find the answer that you want so that you can live your worldly life here and say, oh, that guy's crazy. Do your due diligence. Do your research. I would say prove me wrong, but you can't. You can't. If you actually do the research, it's going to open your mind and you're going to be blown away. It's up to you. Take care, y'all. See you next time.